Oh boy, this is gonna be a fun one. Tristan, that wonderful little pinball game. Let's go over some history first, shall we? Alright, if you've been on Macs for a long time, then LittleWIng probably needs no introduction. Just in case, though, in 1990, Yoshikatsu Fujita and Riko F. Nojima...
Mr. Kojima?
No, Nojima. Anyways, these two founded LittleWIng in 1990, releasing their first pinball game, Tristan. If you couldn't tell from the names, LittleWIng is a Japanese company. Macintosh computers were actually quite popular in Japan. There's some Japan-only titles floating around for the Mac, including the Mac-exclusive Samurai Mech JRPGs. Hopefully I'll get to talk about that one someday. Anywho, most of LittleWIng's pinball games have been released both online and as retail games. I say most, since I'm sure there's some that didn't get a boxed release, and there's a couple that only got a retail release. The first being a licensed game based off of a real table, 8-Ball Deluxe, and another, Psychedelic O, which was made for a Japanese rock band. But those are stories for later. LittleWIng has 11 pinball games, the latest made in 2010. That's 20 years worth of pinball, so if I started talking about every LittleWIng game, we'd be here more than a little while. Haha. Yeah, that was bad. I will say that this isn't the first time we'll run into a LittleWIng table based in Arthurian lore. Tristan is a direct reference to Sir Tristan, one of the Knights of the Round Table. Nothing about him really comes into play here, which, considering the pages of story some of LittleWIng's other tables have, is kind of a surprise. We'll get to those later, believe you me. There's some wacky stuff on some of them. Downright loony, if you will. Haha. I'm sorry. The packaging for the retail version of Tristan is pretty neat. It even came with a real pinball. And later a real flipper because the pinball would end up breaking the plastic lining in the box and causing returns. Oops. For whatever reason, Tristan gained a lot of following, likely because it was quite advanced for the time. It ran very smoothly, to the point where old versions of the game would require a floating point unit for calculations. Anybody remember those? And competition for pinball computer games at the time was rather scarce. And honestly, there's never really been a huge abundance. That's probably people's kids getting introduced to this, and a group made a physical Tristan machine at some point. Which, yeah, this would make a great novelty table. It's this immense amount of nostalgia that makes me rather nervous, because I'm about to have an unpopular opinion. Tristan is pretty bad. I just blew up the comment section. Okay, before I get legions of classic Mac users somehow doxing me and storming my house, I'm not keeping you from enjoying this. I did back in the day too, but sometimes this show is about ripping off the nostalgia goggles. Looking back, the table layout is not that great, and the ball physics are... well, there's no way to put this gently, they're terrible. On top of that, the flippers are oddly sticky, not to mention they aren't even flush with the in lanes, and even if the ball physics were good, the upper drop targets can only be hit with blind luck. Although, considering that lights the extra ball, I guess I can understand that one. You also have 3 lanes up top that, when completed, double the scores of targets on the playfield. However, you can't change the lane lights with the flippers like on many tables, so that comes down to a lot of luck too, especially with the bumpers below them. The rest of the table isn't terrible, though it's a bit simplistic. There's a set of drop targets to light the magic lights, a set to advance the bonus multiplier, and a set to activate the ball lock, along with the aforementioned extra ball bank. There's a couple of bonus holes, one to collect the end of ball bonus early when lit, and another to spin for a random bonus. There's also an orbit lane that increases in score when it's hit, making this a bit of a momentum-based machine, which isn't too uncommon. The longer your ball lasts, the more rapidly you score points. There's also a 2-ball multi-ball that makes the Tristan bonus worth a good million and lights the jackpot, as does completing the magic lights, come to think of it. The jackpot is a rather luck-dependent target too, but considering how much it can be worth... yeah. Honestly, it'd be a fun little game if the ball physics didn't annoy me so much. I just can't line up a shot for a ramp or a hole or, well, anything. I'm not the best at pinball, but if it's a good pinball game, I'll at least have a general idea what direction my ball's gonna go when I hit it. With Tristan, I kinda just have to hope what I do does something good. This is true in an emulator on real hardware, on the DOS version. Yes, there's a DOS version. They all have the exact same physics model. Maybe I'm spoiled by the pro pinball games, or heck, even the later LittleWIng and 3D Ultra pinball games, as Tristan was showered with accolades back in the day and called exceptionally realistic, when, in my opinion, if you touched a pinball table, you'd know that's not right. Though for the time, this was probably the best you were going to get. Which is kind of a shame. The table reminds me something of a 60s or 70s pinball machine with a bit of modern flair to it, and the Mac App Store and iOS version seem to embrace that, with a mechanical-looking score counter and everything. I'd love to tell you what these are like, but I don't have an Intel-based Mac or old iPhone to test either of these with. From what little footage I could find, the ball physics look improved. It seems to act something how I'd expect it to, but without playing it myself, I can't tell you for sure. By the way, this is also what's keeping me from reviewing Return to Dark Castle. Need to find a cheap Intel Mac, I guess. So, in short, do I like Tristan nowadays? Not exactly, mostly due to issues with the ball physics, though I can understand where the nostalgia comes from. And besides, I'm probably being a little harsh on a 28-year-old computer pinball game anyways. And speaking of 3D Ultra Pinball, I suppose that should be next on the list, or at least somewhere close. Oh boy. Till next time.